and the futility of trying to find lasting happiness in a world conditioned by ignorance, afflictions, and karma, polluted karma. And instead turn our attention to the possibilities that exist in our mind, to the potential of our mind to know reality, to have unbiased love and compassion for all beings, to be free of defilements and endowed with all good qualities. And let's make that, attaining that, following that path, our aspiration. And may we do that, not merely for our own benefit, but seeing that we and others are exactly the same, wanting happiness, not wanting suffering. Then let's work for the benefit of all beings, knowing that as we improve ourselves, purify our mind, gain good qualities ourselves, then the way we influence people will very naturally improve, and we can be of greater and greater benefit. So let's set our highest aspirations on attaining full awakening for the benefit of all beings, and see sharing the Dharma together today as one more step on that path. Okay. So, the chapter we're on, His Holiness is talking here about how to cultivate calm abiding or serenity, which is, a mind state that is very flexible, very pliant, so that we can place our attention on whatever virtuous object we want to, and how important that is for really developing the realizations not only of the nature of reality, emptiness, but also in developing all the other aspects of the path. Because when we can't keep our mind on the meditation object, there's no way to really familiarize our mind with it and get that understanding to really sink in and become part of us, because we're so easily distracted. Okay, so we stopped on page 92, didn't we? This Holiness saying we have to give up busyness and stop being around things that provoke our lust and our anger. Now, especially I find the media is so good at that. And I was thinking about this, that what is different about the media from regular life is that when you sit down to watch a movie that your emotions are going to get provoked. You know that, yeah, because otherwise we would get bored. Why watch a movie of other people's lives? If their lives were just kind of like our life, doing this, doing that, why sit down and watch it? So there has to be something more exciting that's going to, perk our interest. Yeah? And so what's more exciting than sex and violence? Okay, and so the movies, really provoke that. And they let you know it's coming. In regular life, we don't have background music. Yeah, that let you know that there's going to be a crisis coming. So in a movie, not only do you know that there has to be really emotion-grabbing things every few minutes, otherwise people are going to turn it off, but there's also this music getting you aroused and prepared for whatever this emotional scene's going to be. Yeah. So it becomes very difficult to have a calm, peaceful mind. Yeah, when you're watching a movie, yeah, or even when you're watching the news, yeah. If the news just talked about, Mrs. Jones went to the grocery store and bought bananas, nobody would watch it, So we have to hear the stuff, again, that's really going to provoke emotion, to grab our attention. And then it sure does provoke emotion, but it makes our mind not very calm. Yeah? And then when we sit down to meditate, we're reviewing all those things that we watched or heard about or whatever. Okay? Plus, the social pressure nowadays that you have to have an opinion about everything, and you have to keep up with the latest thing in modern culture. Yeah? Otherwise, you're really out of it. And who wants to be out of it? So you have to watch the movies, you have to watch the TV shows, you have to check out certain websites, you have to buy certain things or research certain things so that you can have at least a 5-minute conversation about it with somebody. You don't have to really know much about it, but you have to know enough so that you can spout an opinion. Yeah, whether the opinion's valid or not, it really doesn't matter. But you can't just sit there and say, "What are you guys talking about? I never heard of that before." Can you? I mean, that just won't work at a social engagement. Yeah, you have to come up with something. You have to know something about what everybody's talking about. And of course, what they talk about is changing all the time. Yeah. So you get your half-formed opinions about every event, and then you never know any follow-up because the national consciousness changes to something else very quickly. Yeah. So when you're trying to develop a steady mind focused on one object, that's the total opposite of what society's encouraging us to be like. Yeah, and what we feel obliged to be like. Yeah. And, aside from the TV shows and the national news and that stuff, even within our families or our own social groups, we have to know what everybody else is doing. Did you hear ba 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 ba? Did you know that da 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 da? Yeah, and to be able to talk about it, and again, that just keeps the mind filled with a lot of information that really is not so important, but that we feel obliged to know and that we want to research, especially if you heard some juicy piece of something, then it's like, I want to know more about that. Can you imagine? Oh. Yeah? So, a mind that's filled with that stuff, that's interested in that stuff, of course, sitting and focusing on the breath, sitting and focusing on the image of the Buddha, boring. Yeah, I want some excitement. I want some drama. So I think we actually have to, in some way, get used to being bored and appreciate the time and mental space that being bored gives us. Yeah, I'm not saying to remain bored, because if you remain bored, then you quickly lose all your energy. But just to kind of stop taking so much interest in things that really are not so important. Okay. I talked to one guy some time ago. He told me it was so hard for him to go to retreats because he really missed watching the news when he was on retreat. He felt like he had to know what was going on in the world. Yeah. As if what the news reports is true and accurate. Yeah. It may have some resemblance, but who knows? And so in this top paragraph on page 92, His Holiness is also emphasizing the need for ethical conduct, because that reduces distractions. Because the thing is, when we don't act ethically, then going around in our mind, there's all sorts of doubts. Like, oh, why did I do that? I don't feel so comfortable about doing that. That wasn't so cool. Oh, I regret that, but I don't know. I can't really apologize because it's part of their fault too, and I can't really forgive because they really are to blame. And our minds just get really caught up in a lot of stuff like this. Whereas if we, really take time and think about what we're doing, what we're saying, what we're thinking, then at the end there's not this kind of regret of, gee, I did something that I don't feel so comfortable about doing. Okay, so His Holiness said, when I became a monk, my vows required limiting my external activities, which placed more emphasis on spiritual development. Restraint made me mindful of my behavior and drew me into considering what was happening in my mind in order to make sure I was not straying from my vows. This meant that even when I was not purposely making an effort at meditation, I kept my mind from being scattered and thus was constantly drawn in the direction of one pointed internal meditation. Okay? So, in the practice of both ethical conduct and concentration, we find two mental factors that are prominent. One is mindfulness, the other one is introspective awareness. The way people speak of mindfulness now in pop culture does not correspond exactly with the way the Buddha taught it in the sutras. Okay? And you kind of know as soon as Newsweek starts talking about something that it's, it's not going to be exactly the Buddha's word. So, mindfulness in the context of ethical conduct remembers our precepts, remembers our values, like His Holiness said here. Made me mindful of my behavior and drew me into considering what was happening in my mind to make sure I was not straying from my vows. So remembering one's precepts, remembering one's values, that's the role of mindfulness in ethical conduct. And then introspective awareness, its role is to check up and see, what am I doing, and is what I'm doing within the bounds of what I decided before was the behavior that I would do and the behavior I wouldn't do. Okay? So it's kind of like a little corner of our mind that's checking up and saying, okay, I said I wasn't going to get involved in a lot of gossip. What's happening now? Am I doing that? Okay. So really helping us to maintain our precepts and our ethical conduct. So developing mindfulness and introspective awareness when practicing ethical conduct strengthens those two mental factors, so that then when we practice concentration, those two mental factors already have some power to them. So in concentration, mindfulness is what remembers the object of meditation. Yeah, it knows what the object of meditation is. It's familiar with it, and it keeps the mind focused on that object without letting the mind forget it. Okay. Introspective awareness, again, is a little corner of our mind that checks up and says, am I still on the object, or am I getting, very dull-minded? Am I getting distracted? Yeah, am I on the object but my mind is still kind of lax? Am I on the object but my mind is still restless? Okay, so it's that corner of the mind that's checking up. Everybody just got distracted. Yeah, there was a sound and all of a sudden everybody's going like this. Yeah. Sounds like rain, huh? That's good. Okay, so His Holiness is saying here how his keeping of his precepts really helped him in his meditation practice. Yeah, and it really helps in regular life too, because when we observe precepts, then we don't get involved in so many things. We don't make so many messes, put it that way. Yeah, when we keep precepts, we don't make messes. We don't have people looking at us saying, what in the world are you doing? And why did you do that? And you hurt my feelings, and you took my stuff. And, we don't have any of that. Yeah, and we become much more reliable, so that when people see us, they kind of know, they can feel safe around us. They know a little bit better what they can expect from our behavior, that we're not going to be going into their drawers and taking their stuff, and we're not going to be lying to them, and, we're not going to be sleeping around or doing who knows what. Okay? So it really gives a greater sense of ease and trust in relationships. And it prevents us from having a lot of guilt and remorse. And I've always found this interesting that, I'm not a therapist, but I don't hear, when I read psychological articles, a lot of emphasis on ethical conduct, and yet I bet that a lot of people's, emotional problems could be helped a great deal if they kept, good ethical conduct. Yeah. You had something?
Well, it's an interesting point, because what we're taught is that we have a code of ethics as therapists.
Uh-huh.
We have to follow, and it's very clear.
Yeah.
But what we are taught is that it's not our place to impose our worldview on somebody else's worldview.
Mm-hmm.
So the task is to help somebody discover their own ethics rather than say, this is their own ethical.
Yeah. Yeah. So helping somebody, discover their own ethics is definitely beneficial. On the other hand, there are certain ethical things that go across the board in all cultures at all times. Yeah. Uh-huh.
It makes me think of what you said on Saturday, which is that sometimes people behave and then they're surprised at the outcome.
Right. That's exactly it, yeah. Yeah, it's like, I just had an extramarital affair. Why is my spouse upset? Kind of what's going on here, Or I just lied to somebody at work. Why are they saying I'm not trustworthy? I'm very trustworthy, So, yeah. People sometimes look on vows of morality as confinement or punishment. That's especially true in our culture, isn't it? We want to be free, and we think freedom means being able to follow whatever impulse comes in our mind. Yeah? Is that freedom? You know, my generation, I want to be free. Whatever impulse comes in the mind, let's do it. You know, and we did. And my generation taught their kids to do it too. Whatever comes in your mind, be free, stop being inhibited. You know, don't censor yourself, just do it. Yeah? What was it? If it feels good, do it, right? Yeah? So, yeah, so we see precepts as like, you know, oh God, this is being imposed on me from outside. Somebody else, without consulting me, told me I shouldn't do this and this and this and this, and if I do it, I'm going to have bad consequences and get punished, and they're interfering with my freedom. Yeah? So we have freedom. Yeah? I want the freedom to go buy anything I want at any time of day or night, whether or not I have the money. Yeah, so the credit card companies cooperate with that. They give us the freedom to run up incredible credit card debt. Land of the free, home of the brave. You know, we're free to run up the debt. We're not very brave about paying it off. Yeah. So, yeah, so I would really like to redefine land of the free, home of the brave. Yeah? Yeah. Land of the debt-free. Yeah, that's... No way. Yeah. But really, you know, we think as soon as I have to restrain myself, I'm impinging on my freedom, my liberty. Where, you know, this whole thing is, if without any self-restraint, if we just do follow whatever impulse enters our mind, that's when we get into so many messes. Yeah? Because we don't stop and say, okay, here's the impulse to do this. What effect is it going to have on the people around me? What effect is doing that going to have on me? What effect is it going to have on the environment? In the short term, what about the long term? What kind of karmic result is going to come from doing this action? So I work with people who are imprisoned, and one of the guys, you know, he wrote this beautiful article. It's something about consequences, maybe causes and consequences or something. It's up on the web, and he said his big thing from going to a prison was realizing that his choices had consequences. And he started going back to the time when he was really little, looking at some of the choices he made, and then how he continued certain patterns of choices, and how he ended up with a 20-year prison sentence as a result. Yeah? And so really stopping to think, you know, what kind of results? I mean, we can never know for sure, but we can get some kind of approximate idea that if we take something that hasn't been given to us, when somebody finds out about it, they're going to be unhappy. Yeah. And again, it's not rocket science, although it seems like it, to figure out that if we lie to people, they're not going to trust us. Yeah. But still, you know, we just lie, and they're still supposed to trust us because our lies are compassionate for their benefit. Yeah? So, there's some things if we just thought about a little bit, we'd see, gee, this isn't going to bring the kind of result in this life or in future lives that I really want. So I need to restrain myself. So initially, that self-discipline is a little bit uncomfortable. But once you get used to it and you see the benefits of, not doing stupid things, then you really appreciate the benefits that you get from restraining yourself from doing those actions. Because the benefits, usually last much longer than the benefits of restraint last much longer than the pleasure of doing it. But it's hard, when you're trying to lose weight and there's chocolate cake and you think, I really shouldn't eat that, I'm going to feel so much better if I don't eat it. If I lose weight, I'm going to feel better. I'm going to, my health is going to be better. I'm going to feel better about myself. So you see those benefits, but then it's like, but the chocolate cake is there. And it takes about 30 seconds to eat the piece of chocolate cake. And then how much longer do we have of the discomfort of being in a body that's overweight with, all the health difficulties that come because of being overweight? Yeah? This is us, isn't it? Yeah? So to really think about the benefits of restraint. Actually, that's his next sentence. I didn't even read it. He said, just as we take up a diet to improve our health and not to punish ourselves, so the rules that Buddha laid down are aimed at controlling counterproductive behavior and overcoming afflictive emotions because these are ruinous. For our own sakes, we restrain motivations and deeds that would produce suffering. For example, due to a serious stomach infection I had a few years ago, nowadays I avoid sour foods and cold drinks that otherwise I would enjoy. Such a regimen provides me protection, not punishment. Okay? So when we take precepts, whether you take the 5 lay precepts or the 8 anagarika precepts or the 10 monastic precepts of a novice, the full ordination, all those precepts are protection that keep us from doing things that we don't really want to do, that we know if we do are going to lead to difficulties. And so keeping those precepts, is really a way of protecting ourselves. So the Buddha did not say, thou shalt not do this or else. Buddha just said, because he was able to see when people had happiness, it came from these kind of actions. When they had suffering, it came from those kind of actions. So he said, if you want happiness, don't do that and do this. So it's offered to us as advice, and if we think about it, we see that it works. Buddha set forth styles of behavior in order to improve our welfare, not to give us a hard time. The rules themselves make the mind conducive to spiritual progress. And they really do. They help a lot. Okay, now, posture. Meditative posture is important. Because if you strengthen your body, the energy channels within the body will also straighten. If you straighten your body, the energy channels within the body will also straighten, allowing the energy flowing in these channels to balance, which in turn will assist in balancing your mind and putting it at your service. So you know, what His Holiness is talking about, you know, we have a whole system of energy channels in our body. And our mind, the state of our mind, and our energy channels, you know, or the energy in the channels, affect each other. Yeah. So you can notice, yeah, if you're bent over like this, yeah, can you make yourself feel happy? I mean, when you're like this, do you feel happy? Yeah. It's difficult to feel happy when you're even sitting like this. Okay. Yeah. So, you know, when you sit up straight, you feel much better about yourself, don't you? Yeah. So the idea is in meditation to really watch our posture. Yeah. Again, not because we're trying to punish ourselves, but because, you know, if our posture is correct, then the energy winds flow better and our mind has less disturbances. And you can tell right away, looking at somebody. Yeah, we have one of these sticks from the Zen thing. I really should use it sometimes. Not to use it hard, but just to, you know, poke people. Because you see people in meditation and they're sitting like this. Okay, somebody who's sitting like this, what's going on in their meditation? Yeah, their mind is drowsy, isn't it? Yeah. Or somebody's sitting like this, or chanting prayers like this. What's going on in their mind? Distraction. Yeah? So, you know, you can see something from, you know, that how our body is sitting is reflecting what's going on inside, and it's also at the same time influencing what's going on inside.
There was a fascinating study done that actually really reinforces posture and how they had people who sat in a confident posture for 90 seconds before they did job interviews. And they had sat like hunched over and were not given any direction.
Mm-hmm.
People not in the interviews, just looking at people and making judgments based on posture. The people who sat just for 90 seconds in confident postures were the ones selected for the job every time. And that they found that actually you can feel confident by sitting, like it's a reverse thing where you can actually release the chemicals in your mind that make you feel confident by sitting in a confident posture when you're not feeling that way. And so there's a huge relationship between one and the other. Both one by just sitting in the right way.
Yeah. They also say that smiling, if you make yourself smile, you will feel happier. Yeah. Yeah.
Can you repeat that?
I can't repeat that, no. It's a little quieter. You want to repeat that? Okay.
Well, there are just what he was saying, it works in the other direction, where smiling can make you happier, and they've done a lot of studies on people who receive Botox injections in their face, and because when you smile, a genuine smile smiles with your eyes, right? So with Botox right here, you can't activate these muscles, your brain doesn't register the smile, and it's correlated with more depression with people who have Botox.
Ah. Interesting.
You know, but it could be for other reasons.
Yeah.
That's fair. Correlation.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So His Holiness continues, although meditation could even be done lying down, a cross-legged sitting posture with the following 7 features is helpful. Yeah. I don't recommend doing it lying down because you know what happens. Okay. In the scriptures, there's one story of a monk who kept telling the Buddha that he couldn't concentrate sitting up, but he could concentrate lying down. And the Buddha was able to see that's because in a previous life he had been an oxen who had, been lying down a lot. So because of that habit, it was easier in this life. But I would not encourage making that habit, okay? Now, if you're sick and you can't sit up, then of course you meditate lying down. But if you're well and you can sit up, then sit up. Okay, so the 7 features. 1 is sit with your legs crossed with a separate cushion under your rear. Okay, so usually they say the Vajra position is the best one. So that is your left foot on your right thigh and your right foot on your left thigh. Okay? If you can't do that, then bring your right foot down. Keep your left foot up, but bring your right foot down in front. If you can't do that, have both your legs flat on the floor, kind of like Tara does. If you can't do that, then sit cross-legged like, we did in kindergarten, or how we do usually. Yeah, and if you have physical difficulties and you can't sit cross-legged, then sit in a chair or sit on a bench. Okay, but if you can sit on the floor, then it's better to do that. Okay, then calm abiding or serenity is cultivated by focusing the mind not on an external object but on an internal object. Okay, so we don't develop serenity by staring at something. Yeah, we're not trying to get our visual consciousness not to move. We're trying to get our mental consciousness not to move and to be steady. Thus, with your eyes neither widely open nor tightly closed, but open a little, gaze down towards the tip of your nose, but not intensely. If this is uncomfortable, then gaze towards the floor in front of you. Leave your eyes slightly open. Visual stimuli will not bother your mental consciousness. Later it is fine if your eyes close of their own accord. So the reason for keeping your eyes a little bit open is that it prevents drowsiness. Okay? But you're not actually looking at something. They say focus here. If that's uncomfortable, just, kind of your eyes are down. Don't roll your eyes back in your head, but they're down. And having a little light comes in really prevents the drowsiness. Then 3 is straighten your backbone. Like an arrow or a pile of coins without arching back or bending forward. Okay? Then 4, keep your shoulders level and your hands 4 fingers width below the navel, with the left hand underneath, palm up, and the right hand on top of it, also palm up, your thumbs touching to form a triangle. Okay, so your hand should be like this. Yeah, and that's in your lap. So below your navel, so not at your navel, otherwise you're going to look like a chicken. Yeah, and not like way down there, otherwise you're going to look like a, I don't know, what do you look like this? Funny. Yeah, but kind of in your lap, below your navel. Then quite naturally there's some space here for circulation. And, again, that helps. And yet your arms aren't, like this, trying to keep them up too high. Yeah, so it's quite natural that way. Yeah, and again, keep your shoulders back, not like this. The computer generation, we're all like this. Yeah, so we really have to practice being like this. Okay, 5, keep your head level and straight so that your nose is in a straight line with your navel, but arch your neck slightly like a peacock. That part, I don't understand about the part about arching your neck, because he just said in the previous one not to arch your neck without arching your back. Okay, but Okay, so your head is level. If you just tuck your chin in just a tiny bit, that can just open it up back here a little bit, but certainly not like this, okay? And be real careful not to have your chin lifted. A lot of people, because they wear bifocals, have the habit of lifting their chin in order to see things. Yeah, and then you sit down to meditate and your chin's up there. So you want to have your chin level like this. Okay. And your head level. Again, some people are like meditating like this. Yeah? So you really have to have your head level. 6, leave the tip of your tongue touching the roof of your mouth near the front teeth, which later will enable you to stay for long periods in meditation without drooling. Definitely beneficial. It will also keep you from breathing too strongly, which would dry out your mouth and throat. Okay? I don't know about your mouth, but I have nowhere else to put my tongue except on the roof of my mouth behind my teeth. No, he doesn't, not touching the roof of your mouth. Oh. Yeah. Huh. Okay, I guess it depends on the shape of your mouth. Yeah. So just to keep it there, in front. And then 7, breathe in and out quietly, gently, and evenly. Okay, so you start your meditation practice just with a little bit of breathing, quietly, gently, and evenly. When you first sit down, your breath may not be quiet, gentle, and even. Yeah, especially if you have some emotion going on, your breath may be a little bit rough. It may be uneven. It may be a little bit noisy if you're tensed up. Yeah, so, you can let your breath be what it is when you first sit down, but then let it get quiet and gentle and even. Yeah, because again, that's going to affect the state of your mind, isn't it? Yeah, when we're nervous, how do we breathe? Yeah, I'm exaggerating, but basically like that, or if we're upset, our breath is very coarse and loud. Yeah. Sometimes we get so upset we forget to breathe at all. Yeah, so to really let our breath kind of even out here. Yeah, because that affects the state of mind. Sometimes if you get really tuned in, if you watch your breath, you can immediately see what your state of mind is, because you know what kind of breathing patterns go with what states of mind. Yeah, it can be very, very interesting. And it's a way also, when you're talking with other people, they talk about the cues, the nonverbal cues. When you can see somebody's breathing pattern, you can get some sense of what they're feeling at that moment. Okay, then a special breathing practice. So I've heard His Holiness teach this in a variety of different ways, so this is one way here. At the start of a session, it is helpful to remove counterproductive currents of energy, called airs or winds, from your body. Like getting rid of rubbish, this series of 9 inhalations and exhalations helps to clear away impulses towards lust or hatred that you might have had before the session. Okay? So first, inhale deeply through the right nostril by pressing the left nostril closed with your left thumb. Okay? And you inhale like that. Then release the left nostril and press your right nostril closed with your left middle finger, exhaling through the left nostril. Okay? So in like this and out like that. Yeah? Okay, do this 3 times. Yeah. Then release your right nostril and press your left nostril closed with your left thumb, exhaling through the right nostril. And, and then I think inhaling, do it again with just, you're still using your left hand, but whereas you started out inhaling, wait a minute, I'm doing it backwards, aren't it? Okay, so you start out inhaling deeply through the left nostril, through the right nostril, like this, exhaling like that, okay? And you do that 3 times. After that, inhale deeply through the left nostril by continuing to press the right nostril closed with your left middle finger. Then release that. Then release the right nostril and press your left nostril closed with your left thumb, exhaling through the right nostril. So you're using the left hand the whole time, but what you're blocking is changing, At the first, you are inhaling through your right and exhaling through your left. Then you inhale on your left and exhale on the right. Okay? And then finally, put your left hand back in your lap, as described in the previous section, and inhale deeply through both nostrils, then exhale through both nostrils. Okay? This is a simple breathing meditation to do. So you do this 3 times for a total of 9 breaths. That doesn't make sense, does it? Right, but when it says do this, it makes it sound like it's the whole exercise, doesn't it? But it's not. When inhaling and exhaling, concentrate all of your thought on the inhalations and exhalations, thinking inhaling breath and exhaling breath. Or count each pair of inhalations and exhalations from 1 to 10 and then back to 1. Now that doesn't, I think what he's saying is after you've done the 9 points, then you can continue doing some breathing meditation. And you can, at that time, both your hands are in your lap and you can count the breaths, each cycle of breath up to 10 and then back down to 1. Okay. Stay focused on your breath, and this in itself will make your mind lighter and vaster, temporarily free from any objects of lust or hatred you might have had, leaving your mind fresh. Okay. One thing that you can add if you want to, he said, when you're doing these 9 rounds, just to maintain focus on inhalation, exhalation. One thing you can add is when you are exhaling through the right, wait a minute. See, I learned it another way, because there's different ways to learn it, so I get confused when he starts you out inhaling. Yeah, that's what confuses me, because I always learned it where you start out exhaling. Okay, so you inhale through your right nostril and exhale through your left nostril. That's how he has you starting out here. So what you can do if you want to is whenever you're exhaling through your left nostril, think attachment is vanishing. I'm exhaling attachment. And whenever you're exhaling through the right nostril, think anger is leaving. And then when you're doing it with both nostrils, think that, ignorance or confusion is leaving. So that's something you can add to it. So after you do that, then at this point, bring your altruistic motivation, your desire to help others, vividly to mind. If you had tried to insert a virtuous attitude earlier, when under the influence of lust or hatred, it would have been difficult, but now it is easier. When he says lust, he doesn't mean sexual lust here. He means any kind of attachment. But I think the word lust is a confusing translation. This breathing practice is like preparing a dirty piece of cloth for dye. After washing, it will easily take the dye. Okay? So, yeah. Then concentrating your whole mind just on your breath, which you have always had with you and does not need to be newly imagined, will cause earlier thoughts to melt away, making it easier to collect your mind in the subsequent steps. Okay? So it's the thing of just by, we're all breathing, you focus on your breath, yeah, and by keeping your mind on one object, it helps the other thoughts kind of go away. Okay? And that readies your mind for meditation. And then the second step is then your altruistic intention and really cultivating your good motivation. Okay? So after you do the 9 rounds, for the rest of your session, then your hands are back with the right on the left, thumbs touching, forming a triangle in your lap. Okay? Then the object. Now let us consider what kind of object you can focus on while practicing to attain calm abiding. Since the effects of previous destructive emotions tend to linger in the back of the mind, any attempt to concentrate your mind is easily interrupted by these forces. If you have already strongly ascertained the emptiness of inherent existence, you could take the image of emptiness as your object of concentration. But initially, it is difficult to concentrate on such a deep topic. We're more likely to space out. More typically, you need an object of attention that will weaken your own predominant destructive emotion, whether this is lust, hatred, confusion, pride, or excessive thoughts. The focal points used, or in other words, the objects of meditation, used to counter these tendencies are called objects for purifying behavior. Okay, so each of us may have a tendency towards one affliction rather than another, I mean, just think about it. In your life, what do you tend to have more of? Okay, attachment, anger, confusion. What else did he say in here? Pride, or just chatter, mental chatter, too many thoughts. Yeah. Yeah. So we all have all of them, that's true. But which one do we have more of? Yeah, who are the anger people? Who are the attachment people? Who are the arrogance people? Who are the confusion people? Who are the rambling thoughts people? Yeah. Okay. So, of course, many of us raise our hands more than once, but you can often see that there's one more so than the other. And so it can be very helpful to us to work on whichever one is prominent, because that's the one that is going to lead us into, breaking our precepts and doing all sorts of counterproductive activities. Okay? So, now he's going to talk about how to do this. If your predominant destructive emotion is lust or attachment, you react to even a slightly attractive person or thing with immediate desire. No, I want that. Yeah. In this case, you can meditate on the components of your body, from the top of your head to the soles of your feet: skin, flesh, blood, bone, marrow, urine, feces, and so forth. You want me to go on? Liver, intestines, spleen, muscles, ligaments, gush. Okay? Seen superficially, the body might be considered beautiful. But if you closely consider its parts for the purpose of this exercise, it is not so beautiful. Is it? An eyeball alone can be frightful. I mean, just think about it. You know, because you're attached to somebody and you're looking at their eyes, and their eyes are so beautiful. But imagine their eyeball just sitting out there. Yeah, would you find their eyeball alone so gorgeous? You would? Yeah. But those eyeballs are still in people's face, yeah. Yeah. If you saw your wife's eyeball out on the table, yeah.
Eyeballs on the table.
Don't make the table so dirty. Clean up your eyeballs. Okay, consider everything from your hairs to your fingernails and toenails. So it's really true, isn't it? If we really look at what this body is, it is not so gorgeous. Yeah. In fact, it's rather disgusting. Once when I was visiting Thailand, near the door of a monastery, there were pictures of a corpse taken day by day over many days. The stages of decay were obvious. The pictures were really helpful. Your body might seem to be beautiful with a good tone, solid but soft to the touch. However, when you look closely at its components and the disintegration to which it is susceptible, you see that its nature is different. Shantideva has this wonderful section in chapter 8 of his books, where he says, you kind of look at your beloved and they're so wonderful, but if they're dead and you look at their corpse, you run away screaming. It's true, isn't it? This body at one time, it's like, oh. Then, I just want to touch it. Then, when it's dead, it's like, ah. Yeah, get it away ASAP. I don't want to look at it. Yeah. So, if your predominant destructive emotion due to past behavior over many lives is hatred and frustration, meaning you get worked up quickly and even fly off the handle at others, you can cultivate love through the wish that those who are bereft of happiness be endowed with happiness and the causes of happiness. Okay, so when you have attachment, looking at the unattractive nature of the body counteracts that. When you have anger, thinking, cultivating a mind of love counteracts that. If your predominant destructive emotion is confusion and dullness, due perhaps to the belief that phenomena occur without causes and conditions, or that the self operates under its own power, you can meditate on the dependent arising of phenomena, their dependence on causes. You can also contemplate the process of rebirth and cyclic existence, beginning with ignorance and ending with aging and death. Either of these will help you undermine the confusion of wrong ideas and ignorance and promote intelligence. Okay? So you see with each of these afflictions, the counterforce is the opposite way of thinking. Okay? If your predominant destructive emotion carried over from the past is pride, you can meditate on the categories of phenomena within your body-mind complex. Paying attention to these many factors undermines a sense of a separate, undermines the sense of a self separate from them. Okay, so arrogance is based on having a sense of an independent self. So if you meditate on all these kinds of components of which a person is made up of, then the idea that there's an independent self fades away. So that lessens the pride. Also, when you consider these in detail, these different kinds of components, you will realize that there are many things you do not know, thereby deflating your aggrandized sense of self. Nowadays, scientists, such as physicists, have their own categories of phenomena, such as the 6 types of quarks: up, down, charm, strange, top and bottom. And the 4 forces: electromagnetic, gravitational, strong nuclear, and weak nuclear, which, if you think you know everything, will puncture your pride when you consider them. You will end up thinking, I don't know anything. Well, I truly don't, because I wouldn't even know enough to meditate on those. If your predominant afflictive emotion is generation of too many thoughts, so that you are fluttering around thinking about this and that. Oh, I'm worried about this, I'm worried about that, I'm anxious about this. What about this? I have to plan for this, I have to plan for that. How am I going to get all these things done? And what about this person? What are they doing? What about that person? What are they doing? And this and that. And you okay? It's exhausting, isn't it? So that you are fluttering around thinking about this and that. You can meditate on the exhalation and inhalation of the breath, as described in the previous section. When you tie your mind to the breath, the seemingly ceaseless stream of thoughts roaming here and there will immediately diminish. If you have no predominant destructive emotion, you can choose any of these objects. Okay. Okay. Shall we keep going? Let's see if we can finish this chapter. So, a special object. A helpful object of meditation for all personality types is an image of the Buddha or some other religious figure. His Holiness is so open-minded, but I would say for Buddhists we should, well, the Buddha or maybe Chenrezig or Manjushri if you want, since concentration on it imbues your mind with virtuous qualities. If by bringing this image to mind again and again you visualize it clearly, it remains with you during all your daily activities, as if you were in a Buddha's presence. When you become sick and are in pain, you will be able to evoke this marvelous presence. Even when you are dying, a Buddha will continuously appear to your mind, and your consciousness of this lifetime will end within an attitude of vivid piety. This would be beneficial, wouldn't it? Okay. So he's saying, we are creatures of habit, and what sticks in the mind is what we familiarize our mind with, and so usually, what sticks in our mind, we can just see by our distractions in meditation what comes up, and that's showing us what our mind is very familiar with, what our mind goes to. And so as creatures of habit, when we die, it's very easy for those same objects to come up in our mind. So we die and we're grumbling about something. Yeah, if you're a grumbler, anybody here a grumbler? Oh, okay, a few people. I was going to say, oh, you're all so nice. Yeah, so we grumble, don't we? That's when we're polite. Yeah, when we're really into it, it's, everything's wrong with everything around us. Isn't it? The water's too hot, the water's too cold, the bed's too soft, but the other side of the bed is too hard. Yeah. I like this food, I don't like that food. I like this food, so you made me other food, but I don't like that one either. So you made me other food, and I don't like that one either. I want this food, and my shoes are too tight, my shoes are too loose, it's too hot, it's too cold. The ticks tickle. Yeah, why do you have ticks here anyway? Can't you get rid of them? We're open to suggestions how to do it. Yeah, if you have some suggestions, great. Okay, so we grumble. How did I get onto that? Yes, we're creatures of habit. So if we're used to grumbling during our life, we're going to grumble at death. Yeah. Why am I dying here? I don't want to die here. Yeah. Move me somewhere else. This hospital bed isn't tilted at the right angle. Why is this person here? Get them out of the room. Again, just constant complaints. Yeah. Dying is the only way we shut up. That's pretty sad, isn't it? If we're the kind of person who's always complaining, the people we live with just want us to, to go to sleep or to die, because it's the only way we're quiet. Because otherwise, okay, so we are, yeah. Or if you're full of attachment, and your mind's always going to objects of attachment, then what are you going to die with? Oh, I have to leave my family. They're so wonderful. Oh, all these nice things in my house. I don't want to leave them. Who's going to have them when I'm not here? Can't I take them with me? Oh, my beautiful body. I don't want to leave my body. Yeah? This bed's so comfortable. Yeah. Yeah. So, again, lots of attachment. I think attachment is going to be, that one's going to be, if you die with attachment, bad news, because then you really don't have any freedom. You have no choice but to leave, because your body is shutting down and your mind is rebelling and saying, but I can't. I want this body. I want this group of friends. I want to be in this family. I want this whole ego identity. I want all these things. I don't want to separate from them. Yeah, and so much attachment. And then getting angry when it becomes clear that we have to. So then the mind is really, really turbulent. Okay, so the thing is, if we die with anger, attachment, or, who knows what, yeah, it's not going to be good news. Whereas, and we do that simply because we're familiar with different things, which is why it can be helpful to you when you're dying to have a Dharma friend there reminding you to think about the Dharma. But, we don't all know when we're going to die. So we can't just, kind of schedule an appointment with our friend, Okay, I'm going to die 2:30 on Monday. Will you be sure to be here by 2:25? So that we're all set and ready to go. That's not going to work. So we can't guarantee somebody else is going to be there, which means we're going to have to be able to, of guiding ourselves. Yeah. So His Holiness is saying, if we've used the figure of a Buddha or one of the deities as our object of meditation, because our mind is very, very familiar with that, then that will come at the time of death by the force of familiarity. And if you die thinking of the Buddha, yeah, you're not going to be attached to things, you're not going to be angry, you're not going to be grumbling. Yeah, and so that enables you to die really peacefully, thinking about the Buddha, and that sets the stage for positive karma to ripen. Yeah. Whereas if we die with anger or attachment, it sets the stage for some destructive karma to ripen. So, this is one of the reasons why His Holiness, really emphasizes imagining the Buddha as an object of meditation. Now, some people are not so visually oriented, yeah, and so the breath may be a better object of meditation for some people. But if you can train your mind, to meditate with with the Buddha or one of the deities, it could be very, very helpful. Some people say to me, "But I don't visualize. I can't visualize." So I say, think of your mother. Okay. Do you have an image of your mother in your mind? Yeah? You know what your mom looks like, don't you? Even your eyes are open. Even you're looking at something else. You know what your mom looks like. Don't you? Yeah? Or if I say, think of the place you live. Do you have an image of the place you live? Yeah, there's an image in our mind, isn't it? Yeah, that's visualization. That's all visualization is. Yeah, visualization doesn't mean you have to see in 3D Technicolor as if it's happening before you. Yeah. It's just you have that image. You know what that thing is like. Yeah. If I say pizza. Yeah. Do you have an image of pizza in your mind? Yeah. You even know what kind of pizza it is. Okay. Yeah. So somebody says pizza, we have an image in our mind. Oh yes, pizza, I want it. Yeah. Somebody even says the name of somebody you don't like. You have an image of their face. Oh, I don't want to be near them. Yeah. That's all visualization is. Yeah? So it's a thing of we need to get familiar with the image of the Buddha. Yeah? We're not so familiar. Yeah? We're more used to imagining objects of attachment and hatred. Yeah? So we have to familiarize ourselves with the Buddha. In your meditation, imagine an actual Buddha, not a painting or solid statue. First, you need to come to know the form of the particular Buddha well through hearing it described or looking at a picture or statue, getting used to it so that an image of it can appear to your mind. Okay? So although you're not visualizing a statue or a painting, you need to look at a statue or a painting so that when you lower your eyes, the image can appear to you. But you make that image alive. Okay? So that's why we have pictures of statues and paintings. Yeah? Or I should say pictures of Buddhas, not pictures of statues and paintings. For a beginner, mental consciousness is easily distracted here and there to all sorts of objects. But you know from your own experience that if you gaze at an object such as a flower, this scattering will diminish. In the same way, when you gaze at a Buddha image with your eyes, scattering will lessen, and then gradually you can cause the image to appear to your mind. So you might start out looking, at the Buddha, and then, so you remember it, and then closing your eyes and letting the image appear. Okay? Imagine the religious object on the same level as your eyebrows, about 5 or 6 feet in front of you. And it is 1 to 4 inches high. Now I find imagining it 5 or 6 feet in front of you, because my eyesight is not so good, it makes it harder for me to get a clearer image. If I imagine it closer, the image is clearer. Yeah, and His Holiness often comments that people have told him, I haven't found this true, but people have told him that if they usually wear glasses, if they keep their glasses on when they meditate, their visualization is clearer than if they take their glasses off. Yeah? So, okay, the smaller the object, the more it will focus the mind. It should be clear and bright, emitting light but dense. Okay, so, but then you're saying emitting light but dense, and you're supposed to visualize the body not as, the Buddha not as a dense statue, but here it says dense. I've also heard it used, the word heavy used instead of dense. So heavy in the sense of stable, It's made of light, but it's stable. It's firm. Maybe the word firm is better. Okay? If you visualize it just as light that is very light, then it's easy, the mind gets distracted because light is, going all over. But if you think that the Buddha's body is made of light, but it's very steady, very firm. Right. Okay. Its brilliance will help keep the mind's mode of perception from being too loose. Its density or firmness will help keep the mind from scattering to other objects. Okay. Now the object is fixed with respect to its nature and size for the duration of cultivating calm abiding. You should not switch from these, even though over time the image may change in size, color, shape, position, or even number. Put your mind back on the original object. Okay, so when you do this, then sometimes, the Buddha starts out, golden body, then he turns to red, then he grows and he's 7 feet tall, then, the shape of his face changes. So it's very easy to get, the mind fabricates. So His Holiness is saying, no, you come back to the original object, that you started out with. If you strive too hard to make the object bright and clear, this will interfere. Constantly adjusting its brightness will prevent stability from developing. Okay, so you're meditating. Oh, I got to make the Buddha brighter. Come on, bright, 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 bright. You're pressing the thing on your computer, Bright, 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 bright. Okay, brighter, then it fades. Bright, bright, bright. Oh, too bright. Down, down, down. That if you're doing that, it's going to interfere with your stability. Okay? Moderation is needed. Once the object appears even vaguely, stick with it. Later, when the object is steady, you can gradually adjust its brightness and clarity without losing the original image. Okay? And then there's the meditative reflection. So look carefully at an image of Buddha or some other religious figure or symbol. Yeah, even the letters Om Ah Hung, noticing its form, color, and details. Work at causing this image to appear internally to your consciousness. Imagine, and for me, work at causing this image. To me, there's some, I got to make it happen. To me, it's just, you just close your eyes and you let it be there. Yeah, in the same way that you close your eyes and ice cream appears, or whatever it is you're wanting. It just appears to the mind. You don't have any problem with it. Yeah, so just let it be there. And it doesn't appear so easily because we're not so habituated, so we need to really practice that. Hold on. Okay? So work at causing this image to appear internally to your consciousness, imagining it at the same level as your eyebrows, about 5 or 6 feet in front of you, about 1 to 4 inches high. Smaller is better. And shining brightly. And then 3, consider the image to be real, endowed with magnificent qualities of body, speech, and mind. So really think that you are sitting in the presence of the Buddha. Okay. So we're still right in the middle of this section. So next year, I think we'll have to review and then continue on. But you can still read the rest of the section and the rest of the book. Yeah, it's very helpful. Yeah?
So my question was, I was right at the end there still, I don't get it, there's an actual Buddha, the actual Buddha himself.
Mm-hmm.
So then I go back, 6 centuries, and then one point, and So it has to be off an image or statue, doesn't it?
Well, you might use, the Buddha of 6 centuries, but then think, this of 6th century BC, but just think that, he's appearing small in front of you, and again, with a body made of light, golden light. Yeah. Okay. Uh-huh. Yeah, well, some people may have a stronger affinity for Chenrezig and like that visualization. Other people may say, oh, it's more complex. It's better that I stick with the image of the Buddha. Okay? People are different. Yeah? Yeah, the analytical meditation. So how do you do that? Oh, between analytical and stabilizing. Analytical, you're really investigating the object. You're probing the object, trying to really understand it. Okay? So for example, if we do an analytical meditation on precious human life, we really think about the different components of a precious human life, and we reflect, do I have those components? What are the benefits of them? And that helps a joyful feeling arise in our mind. And then we use the stabilizing meditation to just let the mind rest on that joyful feeling after we've analyzed the topic of precious human life. Okay? Yeah?
Just thinking about this recently, the dream state, and that the object of attachment very quickly, so like flying, I'm looking down at 5 distinct lands, and not liking this land or this land or this land, and feeling the pull immediately to the desert. And then I woke up and realized that that moment of attachment, it really motivated me and it stayed with me. Because I was thinking how unfortunate it would have been if I had died. During that dream, I was stuck like in Syria or, really frightened me more than, that had motivated me almost more than, I didn't know the meditations correctly, but it was very powerful.
Yeah.
Because, and then thinking, wow, the dream state really correlates where my mind is at.
Mm-hmm.
And if my mind is calm, then my dream state is calm. If my mind is agitated, it's reflected in my dream state. And to die in the sleep, they say it's a good thing, but I don't know.
Yeah. That's why they say think of the Buddha before you go to sleep.
Maybe recall it in the dream state.
Yeah.
It says you could have also so many thoughts as a kind of addiction. What kind of addiction is it if you have too many thoughts in the meditation? Is it a combination of many addictions?
Yeah, I think it's probably many of them.
Like for myself, I have sometimes difficulty just thinking. Is there another method to remove the counterproductive
You have
another method?
You have difficulty breathing.
breathing. Oh.
I can have the same result, like I'm using
Yeah.
my navel the point.
Yeah, well, he's suggesting the breathing meditation at the beginning of the, at the beginning of your session to calm your mind. If you have problems with your nose and you can't breathe very easily, just leave that,
So can you another method?
Yeah, if you want to concentrate on your navel, that's fine for, a minute or two. If that helps you calm your mind, do what helps you. Uh-huh.
This is actually in reference to something you said yesterday. At the beginning of one of the teachings, you were talking about regret and how you regretted, as a 6th grader writing those lists and stuff like that. I was always under the impression that you should try to live kind of a regret-free life.
Uh-huh.
So, with regret, is it good to maybe to think about it, regret something, and then let it go, or should you hold on?
Very good question. Okay. There's a difference between regret and remorse. Okay? Or a difference between, put it this way, regret and guilt. That's even more stark of a difference. So best is to not do things we regret, that we're going to regret afterwards. That's the best thing. But if we do things, then having regret helps us to stop the pattern of repeatedly doing that. If I don't have regret, then I don't see anything wrong with what I did, and then I'm likely to keep doing it. Okay? Regret does not mean feeling guilty about it, because feeling guilty, we beat ourselves up. That's counterproductive. Regret is, I did this, I put negative karma on my own mind stream. I really regret doing that. I harmed somebody else. I regret doing that. I really don't want to do it again. So you're there, when you have the regret, then you have a determination not to do that again. And then I'm going to take refuge, generate bodhicitta to transform my way of relating to this person. I'm going to do some remedial behavior. And so you do the 4 opponent powers. And by doing them, it helps you set it down. Yeah, in case you're carrying around guilt or shame or whatever it was, it helps you set it down. Yeah, so we do have to purify things repeatedly. So there's some things it's good to have regret for repeatedly. Yeah, I don't walk, but I can say I don't walk around all day regretting making the lists in 6th grade. It's usually, when I'm giving a talk and I bring that up as an example, and then I remember, wow, that was awful. Yeah, and I don't want to be that kind of person. Okay?
Having regret isn't really a bad thing as long as you're not guilting yourself or focusing on it.
Right.
But at the same time, aspiring to live a regret-free life.
It's the best. Yeah, right. It's better to not break your leg than to break your leg and get it put in a cast. Okay? So, so not doing the things in the start. Yeah, but then, it can be helpful. I mean, regret doesn't mean we have to have a heavy mind. Yeah, I mean, regret just means like, wow, I did that. I regret having done that. And then when you keep that in mind, then it makes you actually more careful not to repeat the behavior. Yeah. If you feel guilty, that's a whole other ballgame, because with guilt, then you're just putting yourself down, telling yourself you're stupid and inferior, and it's just more self-centeredness. And if you feel guilty, that doesn't stop you from doing the behavior again. Yeah. Okay. Good. Okay. So I think that's it for this year. For this book this year, more coming. The retreat over New Year, over Labor Day this year. It's not going to be a concentration retreat. There's 2 retreats I really recommend that you come to. Okay, one is Guy Newland's teachings at the end of June, because Guy is fantastic. He's a professor, but he really gets, the doctrine of emptiness, and his way of teaching is very engaging. And so, he's been here 3 times before, and it's really great. So I recommend that you come to that. Then also at the end of August, beginning of September, Geshe Topke is going to be coming, and he's a monk. Was a professor at the Central University of Tibetan Studies in Sarnath. He's 80-something years old with a mind that is so sharp, and he's going to be teaching from Aryadeva's 400 stanzas. So also very good. Yeah, and then of course all the other retreats we have going on and on. I mean, you could just move here, and yeah.